CJ Taylor and Langston Patterson are recognized with preseason All-SEC honors, according to Phil Steele. They're looking to make a statement. Let's go.
You are Locked On Vandy, your daily podcast on the Vanderbilt Commodores, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Vandy podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Corey Burton. Thanks for making Locked On Vandy your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube as a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. On today's episode, we're going to look at the kickoff windows for all of SEC's or all of Vandy's SEC games, so to speak. I think Dontae Carter is going to be an impact freshman and a heck of a player on Clark Lea's defense, but Vandy's defense will be led by CJ Taylor and Langston Patterson. They were just named to Phil Steele's all-SEC teams. They're going to make a statement. This is going to be a way different defense than you've ever seen. And CJ Taylor was named to the third team, and Langston Patterson was named to the fourth team. I didn't know they did four teams, but I guess they do that. This is a big deal for Vanderbilt football, because you don't really ever see Vanderbilt players getting recognized like this, especially preseason honors, things like that. CJ Taylor made 55 tackles, 7.5 for loss with 2 interceptions. He was fourth among SEC linebackers with a Pro Football Focus defensive grade of 80.2. He's going to move to safety this year. It's going to be kind of one of those. I'll talk about exactly how that's going to look here in just a second. But Patterson led the Commodores in tackles last season. He had a team high in tackles against Tennessee, South Carolina, Auburn, and Ole Miss. He recorded his first career sack against Ole Miss and forced a fumble and had an interception while making 9 tackles to earn a spot on the Pro Football Focus Defensive Team of the Week. He played in all but one game over his first 2 seasons at Vandy. He's made 79 career tackles, 8 for loss, along with 1 sack and 1 interception. So Patterson getting fourth team honor. So this is good for this is another feather in the cap for Vandy, who you wouldn't think. For most teams, it's like, 13, 14 SEC, that's pretty cool, whatever. But like where Vandy is, it's a big deal, right? Because, again, I can't reiterate this enough, and I'm going to reiterate it until the season starts, which we've got now 48 episodes left until the season starts. But for Vandy to have this after such a tumultuous season last year where nothing was going right. You didn't have an identity on defense. You didn't have an identity offensively. You played special teams just okay. You had a really good punter in Matthew Haybill, who is he's in camp with the Saints. I don't know if he'll make the team or not, but you had really nothing to point to that was good. All you had was, you barely squeak by Hawaii after a weather delay, which you can write that off to like, hey, it's a weather delay. It's not a natural type of situation. So you give them a little grace there. They win the next game against Alabama State, and then goes the slide. Like you go out to UNLV and just get your brains beat in. And then every game after that, you get your brains beat in, and you're competitive for a little while. And some of them, like the Auburn game, was competitive for a minute. Georgia, you gave them a little bit of a scare, but really it just came down to the fact that you have a scoreboard swinging from a crane on one side. The opposing players are getting dressed in a wedding tent, those tents they have when it's too cold and it's a wedding. And it's raining outside, and you have those little fake, that was what they were getting dressed in. And the atmosphere was just really kind of pitiful, if I'm being honest. So, you take all of those factors, right? And I'm not saying this to continually to drive the knife in and twist it. I'm genuinely impressed with the turnaround as far as like the outlook on like, hey, Vandy might actually be a competent program. They've made a lot of changes. They've overhauled a lot of things, and things are benefited from that. Like Clark Lea takes over the defense, and immediately 2 players are named to preseason All-SEC honors, albeit third and fourth team, where, I mean, you're not in the first and second team, you know, where most people, you know, are paying attention, but like, you wouldn't have anybody in there. Like, I don't think when you look at Vandy's defense from last year, even CJ Taylor and Langston Patterson, I wouldn't be like, yeah, like those 2 guys are all conference, because Vandy had no identity. Like those guys were just kind of lost. They were just kind of fluttering along with the rest of the defense. They really had no identity. They were playing on their heels a lot. I mean, it was just a mess last year. And that says a lot about the respect that Clark Lea gets for his defensive prowess. And the fact that he hired Jerry Kill and Tim Bechter on the offense, and Jerry Kill's a former head coach, had to get out for health reasons. I think having him there helps Clark Lea be able to focus a little more on defense than he would otherwise. So I think you're getting a lot of credit there. And I think that speaks volumes on what people think is going to happen in a Clark Lea defense, because it's going to look totally different. Okay. Let's just be real about that. It's going to look totally different. And I'm excited about it. Like CJ Taylor was a linebacker. I don't know that he was a linebacker. Like he was like, he's too, like, he's not really, like, he's moving to safety, which I think that's what Clark Lea wanted him to play. I don't know that he's going to be like a slot man coverage safety guy. He may not even be a free safety guy. He may play for some free safety because he's versatile and he's athletic. But like him and Randon Fontenette are going to play like those, like down in the box, like down near the line of scrimmage types. Like, hey, you're going to be in run support, and you're going to be able to buzz to the flat. You're going to be able to get out. You're going to be able to guard tight ends. You're going to be able, like different kind of look with the safeties, right? Like it's going to get kind of creative with that position. It's going to be one of those where like, he can come off the edge. He can twist around and do some stunts there. Like he's going to be playing down near the box. He could play like like I've seen some schemes where you have like 2 stacked single high safeties where you play like that. It's like a cloud robber type position. Different people call it different things, but like you have somebody to kind of rob that deep middle. So like you could drop your free safety back. You could, like, if let's say you're in the boundary, let's say you're on a hash, right? You can drop your free safety to the field and just kind of drift him back and create a 2 high look from a 1 high pre-snap look. Like you can create some 2 high coverages, getting there from a 1 high look. Play some games with some of these quarterbacks, you might be able to luck yourself into some good plays. Like you're sitting there, let's say you're on the right hash, right? And your best receiver, the opposing team's best receiver is into the boundary on the numbers, and you have a 1 high look, and it looks like cover 1, looks like man free. Now all of a sudden you have CJ Taylor kind of in that intermediate middle of the field range where it looks almost like you have 2 stacked single high safeties. Well, you could buzz, let's just say hypothetically it's Dontae Carter playing the deep free safety. You could buzz Carter over to the field side, and then you could go rob with CJ Taylor over number 1 to the boundary. Let's say you have a trips look over to the field with a single solo guy in the boundary. You could go rob that and really kind of be dangerous a little bit, because you're going to match that up with some things up front to kind of distract the quarterback. Like you're not going to just come straight read rush, doing all that stuff on the back end. Like you're going to, like some of that stuff you're going to cover up with like twists and stunts and pressures so that, if you can take the quarterback's eyes off of the secondary for just a split second, boom, he's over top, he's robbing it, he's there. Like that's the kind of creative stuff you can do with a CJ Taylor. That's how Clark Lea's mind works. Like he's going to do some things like that. And I think that with him being able to focus a little bit more on that, I think he is, I think you're kind of in a co-head coach situation. It's going to allow him to do that kind of stuff. So that's why these 2 guys are getting the respect they wouldn't, like, based off last year's team, they would not even be close to preseason. Like, Vandy wouldn't have a soul on the all conference teams preseason. They wouldn't have a soul, and I wouldn't blame them. I wouldn't, I don't know if this is a situation where you have to put somebody from every team, but like, I certainly, I don't think it would be unfair to not have a Vandy player on any of the all conference preseason teams. I don't think that's unfair based off last year. But then you throw in the variable of Clark Lea taking over the defense. It's absolutely fair. And these two guys are going to make Phil Steele right. They're going to make a statement on this defense. Like, this defense is going to be fun to watch. I don't know, like, depth-wise, if some guys get hurt and there's some fatigue, like, this thing could all come crumbling down because, like, I don't think the depth is quite there yet. But if I'm being honest, but my God, your first unit and some of your subs are going to be outstanding, and they're going to give some teams hell. And I just hope that they can hold up and win a few games that they shouldn't, because it's going to be fun to watch. And CJ Taylor is going to be a baller because they're going to be able to move him around. He's going to be playing some linebacker spots. He's going to be playing some safety spots. He's going to be kind of a hybrid guy, listed as a safety, probably more primarily as a safety this year. I think that's part of the move and part of what Clark Lea wanted to do. And I think that's part of the reason why CJ Taylor ultimately didn't transfer, because he was probably thinking about it. Honestly, I think the whole team was thinking about it, honestly. But, these two guys, I think, are going to ball out. And the respect for Clark Lea and his defensive prowess is there. It's there. It's absolutely there. So I'm excited. You should be excited too. These are wins, guys. Like, it's third and fourth team. I get it. Most of the time you probably wouldn't be excited about that. I'm not one for moral victories either. I'm not for one to be like, but at a certain point, when your season went the way it went, you have to take the wins where you can get them. You have to. You have to say, third, fourth team preseason all conference, boom, I'll take it. I will take it. And then we'll continue to improve on that, right? 10 commits in June. Yeah, Georgia's looking at that going, get out of here. But again, different places. I'll take it. It's wins. They've had 5 commits over the last week. It's a win. It's a win. A win is a win is a win. You got to, if you're going to build confidence, you have to collect wins. And that's a win. Small win, but it's a win nonetheless. So take that. Think positively. It's a win. Okay. And it's also a win to have a guy like Dontae Carter. This allows you also to be creative with CJ Taylor. He's going to be an impact freshman. I'll tell you why. Next. This episode is brought to you by Gametime. Gametime makes getting NBA Finals tickets even faster and easier, and you have to be faster to get NBA Finals tickets because this is probably going to end very, very soon, so you better – clock's ticking, right? Prices on the Gametime app actually go down the closer it gets to tip-off. Killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee. Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets. So – it's a lot of fun, man. They have a lot of things going on, a lot of features, all that good stuff. Last minute deals, man. Save up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, concert, comedy, theater, etc. If you don't believe me, just go see for yourself. Gametime, right? You can save even more with exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the game or event. That's called flash deals. We're doing a little vocab here, guys. Zone deals. Make sure you define zone deals. Okay, I'm going to give you a second. Go. Zone deals, you save even more when you choose the section. You let Gametime choose the seats. All-in pricing, man. This is a feature that if you toggle it on, it'll show you your total up front right off the bat, so there's no surprise fees at checkout. And you have the lowest price guarantee. It's the lowest price guarantee, or Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. So Gametime's ticket coverage, man, it is the best, most flexible customer service policy in the entire ticketing industry. No lie, or as they say, no cap. All right, so take the guesswork out of buying NBA Finals tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege. That's LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off your first purchase. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Man, are you watching ESPN or Fox Sports? Are you tired of all that screaming? Well, I would be too, because you have to turn on TV and it gets old. Well, this is what you should do. Make the switch to Locked On Sports today. It's a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming, guys. It's so nice. So Locked On Sports Today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And speaking of Locked On Podcast Network, thank you for listening and making Locked On Vandy your first listen or first watch every day. We thank you, everydayers. Make sure you tune in to Locked On SEC next. Make that your next listen. And Locked On Sports Today as well when this is over. So, talking about impact freshmen, man, like, again, I think when you look at this defense and just kind of how it's constructed philosophy-wise, some of the emphasis on the transfer portal guys and some of the, the emphasis on trying to get CJ Taylor to come back and maybe convert and move back to safety. I think all of that plays into just the importance of the secondary from the inside out, and the safety position is going to be unique, and it's going to be super impactful for the overall effort of the defense. And I think Dontae Carter is going to play right into that because of his skill set, and him enrolling early is beneficial. And he's going to be an impact freshman. He's going to be probably the top impact freshman. I think he's going to make the most impact early on. He's not as, like, I defined a couple sleepers yesterday's episode. And I defined sleepers as contributing before anybody thinks you're going to contribute, right? He's not a sleeper. He's going to contribute. Everybody knows it. He spent this offseason. He's already gained like 10, 15 pounds of just pure jacked muscle, being in the weight program since January. You talk about another overhaul. Holy shnikes, dude. This guy, there's a clip on social media, Coach Steiner. Woo-wee. I'm ready to run through a wall for him. That's for dang sure. Another reason why I think you smashed the over on the 2.5 wins on FanDuel. So, but Dontae Carter, don't let me get too far off topic here. Dontae Carter, man, he's going to be amazing. He's going to be, again, he's going to also, I think he's going to supremely impact the way Clark Lea calls this defense and constructs this defense, because he knows he is a big, more athletic, physical guy to play that deep safety role. And that frees him up to just go ham with guys like CJ Taylor and Randon Fontenette, because he has Dontae Carter, he has Maurice Hampton back there at the deep safety, kind of those coverage guys. You have CJ Taylor, Randon Fontenette, and you have some guys that you can kind of do a few things with, right? Creatively with blitz packages, run packages, different looks and disguises on coverages, things like that I think you can, in my last example, in the last segment where I talked about Dontae Carter playing over the ball in the hash and being able to buzz to the field while your robber safety kind of gets over the top onto the boundary. Like, you can do stuff like that. And having a guy like Dontae Carter who's on campus, who's been training, he understands the defense. And I think Clark Lea, as he's trying to get used to who he has and what he has available, you have that capability of saying, okay, well, Dontae Carter, this is what we're going to do with you. We can, you're good enough to play over some guys in man coverage because you kind of played corner safety in high school. You can stop the run. Like, if we want to go two shell, we can against teams that are going to throw the ball a lot, like Ole Miss. Well, they don't play Ole Miss, which is good. Like Tennessee, you can kind of play a two shell there with CJ Taylor and Dontae Carter. Put Dontae Carter to the field, CJ to the boundary, and let's roll. Play some quarters, keep everything in front. And again, he has a chance to impact the game in that way because you're more creative. You can kind of do some things there with him on the back end, and really be able to say, okay, well, you got deep middle. We're okay there. We're safe. We're good to go. Okay. And he's going to impact the game in that way. I think he's going to turn into a hell of a leader too, because this is CJ Taylor's last year. And I think he's going to learn how to lead. I think he's going to be a hell of a leader. His brother is going to come, I think. And with this new wave of new guys, I think you're going to get some, and you're going to always get some guys out of the portal. That's just kind of the new way of recruiting. It's just a lot different. And that's why I think he hired the staff the way he hired his staff, because you really have to have eyes on the portal and guys that are in college to say, okay, well, this guy is special. We stay away from this guy. There's red flags here, but this guy is special. I think that's how they wound up with Fontenette and Hampton out of the portal. And then, I think you get, if you can hang on to Carson Lawrence, he's going to be great. Van Zale Hinton also coming in this freshman class. You hang on to him. He's going to be good back there on the back end at safety. I mean, I think you got some options. And, with the emphasis on the types of players that he's gotten for that safety position, and I'm telling you, he got Randon Fontenette out of the portal, physical box guy that can also athletically play deep as well. CJ Taylor moving up from linebacker, again, moving him a little bit more to the backfield, let him play in space. Like, he's not a box linebacker. He's kind of like a hybrid misfit guy as far as like size versus skill set. So I think Clark Lea has a little bit of flexibility within his scheme to be able to take advantage of a guy like CJ Taylor. Then you get Maurice Hampton, who's just kind of like a leader, ball hawk, physical safety, but good in coverage. And he recruited that same player in Dontae Carter. And so I just think he fits like a hand in a glove, as Scottie Pippen said on Last Dance. He fits like a hand in a glove back there, and I think he's going to impact games. I think he's he comes off as a very football savvy guy, high football IQ guy. Just some of the plays, if you look at his highlights, if you really look close, you can tell that there's some plays that he made just because he put himself in position, just because he watches film and he focuses on technique. He made plays because of that. So that's pretty special. But impact player, impact freshman, look out for him. He's going to be on some top fives here for too long. He's going to be in Phil Steele's magazine for sure. If not all freshman team, he's definitely going to be on these all conference teams in the very near future. So Dontae Carter, your next impact freshman. We're going to tell you what games he's going to impact. And how Vandy has a chance, why they have a chance, and some of the kickoff times might give them those chances. We'll talk about that next. All right, welcome back. We are wrapping up the show here. It's Locked On Vandy. Thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. Thank you to the everydayers. Without you guys, man, it's not possible. If you want to, this is my challenge to you. Hey, subscribe, be a friend, tell a friend. Let's get this thing up as high as we can. Let's see if we can get to 500 before kickoff. All right. It's a lofty goal, but let's see if we can get there. But if you want to be the most educated fan base in the conference, as far as like knowledge of what's happening, listen to the other Locked On SEC shows, Locked On SEC, and then the other team shows as well. Just follow the schedule, man. If you want to go. I don't know if Virginia Tech has one, but follow the shows, man, and they'll take you there. They'll drop all the knowledge, at least the conference games, and you'll be able to know. So when you get in those discussions, you get in those arguments, you can be like, well, Stephen Willis said this on Locked On Ole Miss. Yeah, it's true. Or, Zach Blackerby was raving about Peyton Thorne, and, he's going to be a thorn in our side. As you're making arguments, whatever your argument is, I don't know. Those guys are probably talking about it. So just make sure you're listening to those shows as well if you want to. I think they're good. I think they're worth a listen. So just make sure you listen to this one first, obviously. But anyway, SEC kickoff windows, right? We talked schedule, right? We talked about how the schedule was going to be kind of difficult, but there's also some winnable games in there, and the way they're kind of distributed, I think you have some games where you can build some momentum a little bit. You get a little bit of reprieve between some of the tough games, but some game times have been announced and some windows have been announced as well. So looking at the season, okay, some of the coding that they have on these games. Early is kickoff between 11 and noon. Afternoon is 2:30 and 3:30. The night window is 5 and 6 Central. And flex, you could either do afternoon or night depending on the matchups. But the first one is 11. That's been set. It's 11 a.m. Central Time, noon Eastern against Virginia Tech. Alcorn State and Georgia State, 6:30, 6 o'clock respectively. At Georgia State, 6 o'clock game there, 7 o'clock Eastern Time. Missouri's the flex game, which I think is interesting because, you know, if I look at the big like SEC grid and see what all is happening on September 14th or September 21st, I should say, if that game's a night game, I think that's pretty good slot there for Vandy at Missouri. And that's going to mean that Vandy's 3-0. That's going to mean that Missouri's 3-0. And they have a chance to make this a fairly nice big game. And then you're off September 28th. And then you come back against Alabama on October 5th. That's an afternoon kick. Which is a nice little slot for Alabama. I think if you can kind of catch them with all the construction and the weird atmosphere, like you might be able to catch them off balance a little bit. Kentucky's a flex game, which I think is interesting. I think that game will end up being an afternoon slot. Ball State's set for 6 o'clock. Texas is an afternoon game for sure. Same thing with Bama. You want to get the Texas fans here at the game and then partying, giving them time to party later that night. Auburn's an early game, which really benefits you because it's November 2nd. They might be checked out by then, and you get them early in the morning. And then South Carolina, they don't really have one for South Carolina. They don't know what to do with that game. I don't blame them. Then you're off November 16th, and then you have LSU at night. LSU gets a night game at Vandy, and Ole Miss can't get one. Kind of brutal. And then you get the Tennessee game early on November 30th. Early. So getting that one out of the way. I like these, man. And I think there's some advantages, some distinct advantages to all of these time slots. I think it's pretty good. I think it's kind of indicative to what's been going on with the overhauls and things like that. Like the fact that all Vandy games are not early, says that, there's some credence to Vandy's going to be a tough matchup, and they've got some good things going on. So, like, for them to have put them in a couple of afternoon slots, I think most of that has to do with the fact that people want to watch Alabama and Texas. But then again, it's against Vandy, and a lot of people assume that, that game's going to probably be an 11 a.m. kick. Nobody's going to really care about it, yada, yada. But, like, the fact that those are in, like, afternoon games are kind of prime time on Saturday. So, like, those are pretty good time slots for Vandy. You get the Auburn game early, which I don't know. I don't think anybody's going to want to watch that. You get LSU at night, which if they're awarding LSU a night game against you, they probably think that's a big deal. There's some credence to that, but like that's like playing that game at night is I think that's some respect right there. That's a little bit of respect there. Missouri being flex, I think they're just kind of waiting to see how Missouri starts off, how Vandy starts off. If Vandy starts off 0-3, the things will get flexed right to the afternoon, or it might get flexed to like the late night to where it gets just buried. Depends on who's sitting what, where, when, how, why, all that stuff on that day. So they're gonna wait there. So and getting Tennessee early, I think can catch them off guard for sure. But it's gonna be a lot of fun to watch. So keep an eye out on that. I think for recruiting purposes too, I think you let yourself on some of these bigger games, you let yourself host these recruits a little bit longer. I think there's some advantages there. I think you're able to do some things with recruits at night. If you have an afternoon game, which I think benefits you, I think that's something that's lost in some of these time slots. It's not just about the fans and things like that. It's about recruiting. It's about all kind of things. I know the school doesn't get to pick these game times, obviously, but like it's going to be interesting nonetheless. And I think Vandy's getting a lot more respect in a lot of regards than they probably should be, or coming off the season that they just had. FanDuel's not giving them a lot of the betting lines. Vegas isn't getting them a lot of respect, but like some of these publications are starting to recognize that Vandy's going to be a little bit different. So anyway, TV market kind of says that a little bit. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. Maybe it's just because I'm doing Locked On Vandy. I'm like, yeah, these time slots are not all early. These are cool. Anyway, but it's official visits this weekend. Byron Nelson has his official visit set. Very big target. You get him as your second offensive lineman. I think you're rolling pretty good. So look for that one. And Carson Lawrence is coming soon. But quick programming note. I'm probably not going to get to take a whole lot of shows off during this season. I've been running strong since December. So I'm going to not do a show tomorrow. So I'm going to have a 3-day weekend this weekend. I'm going to take Friday off, and I'll be back with you on Monday. So this is going to be my last show of the week. And I'll come back at you and resume the everyday stuff. So don't. I might produce a shorter. I might give you something that you can consume in that slot. It may not be the regular show, but I'll give you something, a little bit of something. But I'll resume back with regular shows next week. So just a quick programming note there. Hope you don't miss me too much, but just use this time to spread love, right? Catch up on all the other episodes because I've talked about a lot of things in these episodes this summer. So catch up. Anyway, but until then, have a great weekend because for me, it's a 3-day weekend. I'll be on the lake on Saturday, so that'll be a lot of fun. So, but we'll kick it to you on Monday, and we'll see. Until then, we'll see you. Anchor down, behave yourselves, and peace out.